What's the haps? I'm Meroka, and today we're taking a quick look at the Masquerada, Songs and Shadows. This is by Witching Hour Studios and published by Isbred Games, who you may know as the guys who put out Valhalla a few months back, which I made 1 or 2 or 52 videos about on my channel. Yeah, those guys. They brought this to my attention. It's a very, very pretty game. It is a game that I guess I would have found a little hard to classify, so they call it a Pause for Tactics RPG, which is just kind of an odd way of saying it's kind of like the Dragon Age games. So you control a squad of people, and you can either run around in real time and micromanage the manage the flow of the battle in real time, or you can pause the game very, very frequently, as much or as little as you want, to micromanage what everybody's doing all the time. So you have that choice, and both are valid tactics, and different people will find different pleasure in different play styles. So entirely up to you. So it's that kind of thing. This came out a couple weeks ago now, and I just wanted to take a little time to formulate my opinions on this. So I've sunk a few hours. Steam says I've sunk about 6 hours into it over the course of the last week or so. I feel like I've seen most of the fundamental content. It's still kind of introducing new mechanics even 6 hours in, so there's a little bit still to be seen, but I think I've got the broad strokes of it at this point. So we can go into the options first. We can have a look at these. We've got a few kind of gameplay tweaks. So normally if you want to use an ability, it's kind of you select your ability and then you can click to cast it. So you can make that instantly, or you can start with combat paused, which may or may not be a nice option depending on how you like things. Actually, to be fair, I could probably entirely go for that. Seems like the sort of thing I should have had on. Game difficulty does seem to be changeable on the fly anytime in the story, so if you're finding it too easy and want a more challenge, you can crank it up to hard. If you're finding it too easy, you got story mode there as well. So I'm just leaving it on normal as it were, because I've not played one of these styles of games before, so I think I'll leave it where it is. Interface, we have GUI kind of tweaks and things. Again, a lot of sort of personal preference types of things. Will say confined mouse, a very nice option that you do not see often enough in most games, frankly. Just to be able to not constantly Alt-Tab out of the game by accidentally clicking on a second monitor, if you own a second monitor, as I do, that's really nice to have. That's a nice quality of life thing that I really wish more games did, so thank you to those guys for doing that. I appreciate that one. Your video options here, it is a Unity game, so you kind of got the Unity launcher before we get into it. That'll do your resolution there. Here we simply have full screen and VSync. Normally I would not be an advocate for VSync, but today I am, because I will say this game, once we get going, it does have one weird performance quirk that is kind of irksome, if I'm honest, and VSync is the only way to kind of mitigate this. It's got a really bad stutter. As you're running around, the frame rate runs generally pretty high. Usually, it's running at a higher frame rate than my monitor. I have my monitor set to 120 FPS, and the game's usually running at a higher frame rate than that. But then, it stutters quite a lot. And the only way to rectify that, I found, is to put VSync on. And then it still doesn't eliminate the problem entirely, but it fixes a lot of the problem. I can't help but wonder if like a hard frame rate lock to just lock the game to 60 or something might be the fix here. It's not, presumably the ideal fix. I imagine the ideal fix would be to figure out why the game's stuttering and stop the game stuttering. That would be the ideal fix, but sort of as a temporary stopgap, I feel like a frame rate cap would be pretty useful here. And equality it's just your Unity presets, so you can change them here in game as well, which a lot of games don't let you do, so nice to have that there as well. Audio on 4 entire separate sliders. That's a lot of sliders. We like audio sliders around here. That's good. Controls are rebindable. These are great. Controller, your gamepad is rebindable as well, but I will say the game actually only has partial gamepad support. So I started out playing it with that. I was like, I fancy playing this with a controller. I just want to put my feet up and just lounge back and play this game with a controller. And then eventually had to sit up because actually I had to use a mouse to control some of the interfaces because the gamepad just doesn't work with some of the interfaces. So you're going to be using your keyboard and mouse at least some part of the game, so at that point I kind of resigned myself to just playing the entire game with a keyboard and mouse, and it's probably the better for it. So although the controller rebinding is here, the controller functionality is not there, so that's a little bit redundant, unfortunately. I wouldn't suggest playing this game with a gamepad. So, we're going to hop on in. I'm going to continue where I left off. This game is super heavy on the narrative, I will say that. So I will try to keep spoilers out of things, but bear in mind that these are probably... I feel like it's almost inevitable that some story elements might come up in this. Certainly, in order to show you the animations and cutscenes and voice acting and things, I'm going to have to show you at least some cutscenes. I think the cutscene I've got it saved at is a relatively story-free kind of thing. It's just kind of a scene transition kind of affair. There's not much goes down in it, so I can show you that. After that, I'm mostly going to show you more of the gameplay. There's a lot of cutscenes and stopping and talking in this. Not really cutscenes per se, but there is a lot of stopping and talking. And I'm going to try and edit a lot of that out. I wouldn't normally do that, I'd like to show you the full experience, but in the interest of preserving the story, because the game is so very heavily focused on the story, just to keep it spoiler-free, I will edit out most of the cutscenes in this, well, as I'm calling them cutscenes. So we'll leave those out and focus on the combat and moving around in the world and stuff. And I will show you, I think the first thing we'll show you will be a bit of cutscene. So when I hit continue, we'll go into the world, we'll show you some of the music. You can already hear some of the great music in the background anyway. You'll get some music, you'll get some voice acting, you'll get some animation, and then we shall get to the game proper. But I'm going to shut up while we do this.
The street to get you to the Bleeding Beetle's down this way, sir. Too small for the coach.
We'll be waiting for you here, whenever you're done.
Okay, so I thought that was longer than it was. There will be a little bit just up ahead, but there you go, there's some voice acting. I'll get you some more of the characters proper, to be honest. Yeah, you saw first thing there. Got some lore! Discovered some lore. This is the location we're at. This is the lore. That pop-up that was at the bottom was like, you discovered some lore? We're going to be seeing that a lot. There's a lot of lore. There are 34 pieces on culture, there are 18 pieces on faction, there are 26 pieces on the history. There are a lot of the characters as well. Different factions and different characters who are important to the story, and I would say that some of these almost seem like they're maybe a little bit spoilery, because you can kind of figure out that the named characters are probably going to be members of your party. So when a character shows up with that name, you're like, oh, I'm going to recruit them to my team. I have not discovered Vasco Tessitore yet. They're my party. Very, very obviously through the interface tells me I have 5 characters in my party. I only have, well, there are 5 character slots in my party. I only have 4 characters. I have me, the protagonist. I have Calden Azrus. I have Tiziana De Felici and Amadea Invidious. They have joined my party, and I've learned bits about them by travelling with them. We have unlocked some lore. Vasco Tessitore I have nothing on. I'm quite certain he's the 5th member of the team, and I would eat my hat if I were wrong, quite frankly. And you'll see my hat. That's a chunky hat. So we have discovered things on the locations. We have learned a little bit about the Bleeding Beetle, which tells us a bit about the tavern that we are about to go and attempt to frequent. And yeah, there's loads and loads of bits on this. If you want to dig into the story and the world, this is a hugely expansive bit of world building they've done. There is so much. They have gone so deep. They have written a lot. Some of them are just outright stories. I mean, characters, I'm not sure, was it under others? Or I think it's the Marimbus family, actually. Yeah, I only discovered this guy recently, but the story that pops up there, that's the first thing you learn about him. That's a lot. You learn a lot. Well, they just give you a whole sort of short story. The moment you meet this character, like, okay, here's this guy's history with you. Here's a story from your past involving this person, which is just like a lot of reading. So if you're not into reading, this is a big part of the game. You should probably be into reading and digging deep into the story, because there's going to be a lot of that to do. So yeah, this is all lore, and we're going to get that a whole bunch. And as we wander around the world, as we explore things, we will be able to find more bits. I mean, if we wander around this area, I think there's some more stuff.
That's him, the one with the flute.
He's good.
Among the city's best. We should get closer.
Okay, so I explored this area very briefly before I saved my game and quit. So I know down here we've got a purple circle. So the circles are kind of how we interact with the world. There are the gold one that we see there that we always get a point telling us where to go. Those are kind of going to be the next story bit. That's where you trigger the next bit of your story. There are purple circles all over like this, and some of them have icons, some of them do not. If it doesn't have an icon, it's usually an optional conversation with a character. Those seem to be kind of rare, or have been early on in the story. A couple have popped up more recently, but most of the time I've not really seen them. Very rarely we'll get these, which are new masks, or a masquerine, as they're called, is the actual lore term for these. The masquerines. So if I press M, we can see we have acquired a masquerine, which are basically the source of all our powers. So I have 3 available to me, but I haven't actually unlocked the use of 2 of them yet. All the characters start with 1 mask each, and in this world, the masks are the sources of everyone's powers. So these people basically give each character their ultimate ability. So our protagonist here, Cicero, while wearing this mask, his ultimate ability increases his charge regeneration, which allows him to use powers, and he gains protection from a whole bunch of interrupt effects. If we look at some of my other characters, if we go over to Calden, he gives everybody a damage reduction buff, and I feel like that's tautological there. All allies get a temporary buff that reduces damage they take. Allies take less damage. I think maybe the bottom one's supposed to be just like a bullet point, but yeah, everyone takes less damage while he uses. Tiziana, she kind of has a sort of rebirth thing. If she dies while the ability is active, she doesn't die, instead heals and deals a whole bunch of damage to everybody nearby, which sounds like a lot, as far as ultimates go, sounds a lot better than the first 2 guys. Amadea has basically got an AoE root ability that stops enemies from chasing her if they're trying to kill her, basically. And as you can see, we've got a little shadow down there. Oh, there's someone going to join our party. Who could it be? Could it be the person that we found in the lore? Don't know, this character's not joined your party yet. So those are our abilities that we will have in battle. They will be determined by our masks, and masks can't be used until they are decorated. Nobody wants to wear a blank mask. And 6 hours into the game, I've acquired a few masks, but I've not yet actually acquired the ability to decorate masks. The 2 kids that we saw at the start of this scene, basically they recently expressed an interest in learning to decorate things, and they're like, oh, well, we can decorate your weapons for extra buffs. And we'll get back to you on the masks thing. So I still, even now, have not activated the masks. So I've collected 2 out of, I think it's 5 for each character. I've collected 2 out of 4 to collect. So you start with 1. So I've collected fully half of his masks now. I can't use them yet, nor anybody else's, because I cannot decorate them. So he's got 1. I think I've just got 1 for all the other characters, if I'm honest. I'm not sure if I have 1 for Amadea. No, I do not for Amadea, not yet. So that is that. Yeah. Let's head back into the world. So yeah, that's one of the masks. That's one of the purple circles. A lot of them will have a little book over it. An overwhelming amount of them will have a little book over it. And that will add to your lore. It'll have like that kind of icon above it. And one of these will be unlocked, usually relating to the place that you're in, or a person that you're nearby, or, something. If there's a group of people who belong to a faction, you may learn something about that faction. If somebody is, in a library, actually a lot of things in libraries like, oh, we're reading books so we can learn about the canticles, which is how the time is done in this world. They've created their own calendar for this world. They've created a calendar, they've created a history, they've created events throughout history. They've done a lot of world building. And so yeah, at one point you end up visiting a library and picking up quite a lot of backstory on everything there. That's where you get that. So let us advance the story a little bit more. I'll give you the voice acting for this, but then after this, I think I'll probably cut out any kind of story narrative, just to show you the combat and world exploration stuff.
By the ages.
What do you see?
There, over by the side. That man with the guards. That's Izander Urshel. He's the leader of the Salt Breathers, one of the smaller Masquerada factions that existed before the war. Apparently they're still around.
I've heard of them. Getting Contadoni addicted to stone salt, then charging exorbitantly. They've practically robbed hundreds of families of their stability.
And nothing's been done about it.
And nothing will be done. Not today, at least. Remember who we're here for.
Thank you, thank you.
He's getting away.
Marshal, don't do anything.
where you are!
What are you doing?
What? Protect me!
Oh, great.
Here they come.
I thought my combat was supposed to start paused. I thought I chose that in the options. I don't know if did that not save or something. I had to pause that manually there. So we have these 3 guys in my party at the minute. The other guy who's I can change his stats while he's not here, but he didn't come with us on this journey. Calden Azra stayed behind for narrative reasons on this particular journey, so he's not going to be with us in this fight. I don't know if they're going to try and shoehorn in reasons to only ever give you 3 people in a fight, but I don't think I've had all 4 people in a fight yet. Or I don't know if later it opens up and you suddenly get all 5, but thus far it's always been like, no, I'm going to go over here and do things. So, we got our 3 guys. We've got Cicero, who is he's our main protagonist. He's very flexible in combat and has 3 different combat stances, so you can kind of use him how you want. You can give him... Dirge is this green icon there. You can switch him to kind of a ranged combat. The blue shield is basically kind of a tanky kind of thing. And the purple diamond is kind of a very agile, maneuverable, damage-dealing kind of class. All the other people are not quite so versatile in combat. Amadea is, again, kind of a damage dealer, and Tiziana over here is very much our tank. Calden was our healer, so we are going into this without a healer. Not necessarily an issue, because any character can revive any other character who falls in battle. But yeah, so we've got a range of abilities. Some of them, they'll all have a variety of different effects, some which will apply debuffs to enemies, and some will tag them with elements, which is kind of a core part of the combat system. So, for starters, we've got our main ability that I've got for tagging them is Zephyr, which is going to be important. If I were to teleport over here, so I can do, if I were to teleport over there, I would keep right-clicking to cast as well, and right-clicking is cancel cast, which is where the one-click casting, I guess, probably would be useful. If we were to have a look at the other guys, she can increase her attack speed and movement, so that's probably a pretty good one to go with. So we can just tell her to go with that. She is already on board with Sanction. The AI has already gone, hey, taunt. Sanction, I believe, is her taunt kind of ability. Unleashes a fire wave at the target location, taunts all the enemies, and damages everyone within range. So you can see we've got the telegraph on the floor. You can see where her taunt's going to go. These guys, that guy's already in it. That guy's probably going to walk straight into it. They're going to get hit. Everyone's going to get hit with... does that one hit with elemental tags? Yeah, that one hits them with fire tags. I'm going to hit them with air tags. Which one they're going to wind up with in the end, I'm not sure. Whichever one they get hit with last. So probably air. So let's do that. So she already hit them with... She actually hit them with earth tags, and I'm not quite sure how she managed to do that. Oh, she used convergence to begin with. So I've got earth tags and fire tags on them. Everybody kind of had this one basic attack which activates tags, and depending on the combination of abilities and tags, they will apply, those are the words I'm looking for, they will apply different status effects. So she obviously strikes with fire, she's already a fire-based character. She will strike with earth, she is an earth-based character. I will strike with air, I am an air-based character. And our missing guy is a water-based character. I have quite a balanced team, because at the start you do get to pick which of the 4 elements you get to align yourself with. And I think air probably works out nicely balanced with your starting team for the first good part of the game, just because it gives you all 4 elements. I'm pretty certain the 4th guy is going to be air, so you're going to have all 4 elements and whichever one you choose to be, I think is how that one's going to work out. But until he arrives, we still, yeah, I can fill in that 4th gap by being air element myself. So if we look in our codex, we can have a look at gameplay and see the elemental tags, because I don't remember these. I can never remember these. So if you are air and you hit an earth tag, you will blind them and reduce their damage output. If you are air and you hit a water tag, you will slow them and reduce them by their movement speed by 50%, and so on and so forth. Each of the different 4 elemental combinations with each other will provide a different number of effects that will incapacitate your opponents in combat. So if you can learn these, it's probably pretty useful. I've not learned them. I've not learned them at all. So I know one of them, I am air, and I know there was an earth tag applied and a fire tag applied. So I can stop one using ability, or I can blind the other. So I would probably, I think the blind's probably the most useful. So I can click on my activate tags, and click on the guy who's afflicted with earth. And we should, I think we should probably try and focus our guys on attacking one character, because they do have a habit of wandering off and doing their own thing and getting killed. So I think it's useful if I focus everybody on the same place. So, my guy has... Why has my guy going over there? I said use that on that, right? Okay, there we go. I think he got blinded there. Hard to say. I'm not sure. You do need to... I do find myself needing to pause this quite a lot. I'm not playing this well by running around in real time. In real time, I find myself just staring at it and going, what's happening? So you just kind of pause it to take stock of things. So she could really use her rebirth because she's about to go down, and I've got no healing, unfortunately. Not a lot I can do there. At least I can be on standby to resurrect, or I can... I'm wondering if I can get... I can get her out the way by using Trade Winds. Trade Winds swaps with a player, with either a player or an enemy. If I swap with a player, because I've buffed myself with perks accordingly, she will get a shield. So she's now got a little bit of damage protection. I can finish that guy off. I'm going to use Zephyr over here, get on board with this guy, and then I can use my Dervish, kind of a AOE charge, travel-y kind of thing. Travel through a point, deal a bunch of damage, and there we go. You can see around each of the characters there's a little yellow bar. That's basically our defensive kind of shielding. So each character's got a certain amount of shield. I've got a little bit. Amadea's doing great. Tiziana has no shield right now, and that shield will only be active within that circle. So if you want to get behind someone's shield, as we are, if we were to attack the Salt Breather Piper from behind here, that damage would go straight to their health. If we were to attack from the front, we would damage shield, although it looks like we've already gone straight through the shields anyway, so it's not really too big a deal. So, I think we've got this fight. You can finish that off. Our lady's down, but end of fight, so they get back up again. So we got a bit more lore, Masquerada Salt Breathers, so we get to find out a little bit more about those people we met before we got to fight them. But right now we need to give chase, need to follow on. So the other kind of circle for this is literally all the overworld thing really boils down to. There are 3 different coloured circles that you can interact with. Gold is story, purple is stuff, optional stuff almost entirely, and green takes us to a new location.
Stop! There's 3 of them. We can take them on. Protect me!
Okay, so we got a fight. That's fine, nothing we can't handle. Yeah, the overworld stuff seems maybe just a touch basic, because, like I say, optional conversations, masquerines, and lore stuff, all just like, hey, here's a purple circle. There's no real looking or finding anything, it's just head towards the purple circle and click on it, and things happen. So, let us teleport myself in there, again, get the buff going, and we get... nothing that's going to work right now, so I think I'll leave her to her... well, I should probably tell her to go attack, yeah, the front guy. Those 2 have no shields, though, so maybe it would be worth getting everyone to attack the guys that shields first, because then it'll be 3 on 2, and that's a fair fight in my book. So let us go to it. This is kind of a mini-boss fight. This guy has a name, and a health bar, and a focus bar, which is his shielding. Focus is shield, just in case you're wondering. If you were to align the elemental tags, because that guy's got an air tag, so if I were to hit him with the lightning blade, although he's managed to use lightning blade of his own accord here, that would just deal bonus damage in this instance. So I think we want to get rid of some of these ads first. I probably want to take back control of my main character. They do have AI control, so you can customize the AI control to a certain degree. So as you saw, like I say, he used lightning blade there, which basically cast on any enemies with an elemental tag. I put an elemental tag on the enemies, so literally the first thing the AI told him to do was cast on any enemies with an elemental tag. The abilities that you have can be rearranged in order of priority, so if I want Zephyr to be their first priority in battle, I can move that up the list. I kind of don't want it to be his first priority in battle. I think Lightning Blade kind of probably always should be. I think some of these basic melee attacks that debuff enemies, they're probably a good one to prioritize in battle. Maybe I need to think a little bit more about this, because I've not really given a lot of thought to this. Maybe I feel it's a little lacking in some cases, because they're all very basic. Innovate is cast on self when low on focus, cast on self when low on health, cast on nearest companion, cast on companion with highest health. Those are all the options you get for that, which they're okay, I guess, but mostly Innovate is just a attack and move speed buff, and I kind of feel like that's something I would just like all the time, really, if I'm honest. That's not a, oh, I'm low on health, so I should use this kind of thing. This is a, this makes me more deadly. I should use it. I should have this buff up as much as physically possible kind of buff. But then Convergence is a blast with dirt and dust which interrupts a target and places an earth tag on them. Earth tag, great. More interested in the interrupt. Interrupt is going to stop enemies using abilities against us. That's great. Is there anything on there that allows me to tactically use it at an opportune time without, you know, manually taking control of the character all the time? No, kind of not. The only way to ensure that I'm always going to have the ability to use it is just to tell them not to use it, frankly. I would have to say, Convergence, don't use, and also we've got a mass charge threshold, which I've got set fairly low on all the characters. In fact, I've got them set to 0 on all the characters. You can tell them to reserve a certain amount of their ability charge, so that, you know, if you take control of them, to micromanage them, they will at least have some charge left over, hopefully. So I would need to set that charge threshold up a little higher so they don't use all their power using their other abilities, and I would also need to set Convergence to do not use, just so that I, you know, would have access to interrupt to stop the characters using their abilities to interrupt them when I need it. Otherwise, there's a very real chance that either they're going to be out of energy, or they're, well, quite frankly, it's going to be on cooldown because they've used it already, which is not ideal. I feel like this system could be deeper. This could be deeper. The AI is just limited and kind of stupid, honestly, and they tend to do with their own thing a lot of the time. They don't necessarily. You can press H to hold their position, but they don't seem to hold it for very long at all. If you're like, here, move out of the path of this giant AOE that's incoming and hold your position, quite often they will give up holding their position and walk back into the path of the AOE before the spell's even finished. It's like, that's not my idea of holding your position. I mean, admittedly, he's apparently holding his position here now, which I probably wouldn't want him to do, actually. I would like him to attack one of the guys who have no shield. Oh, they all have shields now. That's unfortunate. We should probably work on taking one of them down, at any rate. I could do this, which would do a lot of damage to all of them, actually, because all three of them are in my way. Let's go with that. Let's go through the crowd. Deal that damage. Is anybody hurt? I can't get behind one of them and hit them, I think. I really can't do much about it if my guys are hurt here, because obviously it's done without a healer. I probably want to get out of this path. We certainly want to move her out of this path. Can she move over here? I want... Where's... Oh, Amadea's in the path as well. Amadea, come around here. And Cicero... well, I'm controlling Cicero. I'll just move him away from the fire, I guess. And my tank's down. Great. This fight may not go the way I want it to. If I can stay alive for 4 seconds, I can get her back up on her feet. But at that point, I'm going to use this. I'm going to try and kill some of those guys. Okay, the boss ran away and I just got the minions. Okay, that's fine. So now we seamlessly merge back into running around the world. Until more fights pop up.
Stop! I can't run. We have to fight!
Okay, and another fight. So I can see this is going to happen a couple times. Let us do a dervish as far as we possibly can. Let us get her buffed. And let my tank do her thing. Whatever she may be doing. I'm wondering if I kind of have to whittle his health down like a chunk each time. I hope not, because that's going to be tedious. So... Certainly let's teleport, tag things. Actually, no, let's not. Let's use an ability on that guy, if I can. There we go, so that will have debuffed them. They're not auto-attacking because I didn't tell them to auto-attack. I could really stand to have them doing that. Okay, that's one of them down. They're down. Actually, I'm not sure. These are... I get the impression these are probably more of a sort of elemental thing that's been summoned, are they not? I've not seen these things before. The enemies all have their own unique abilities. This is definitely new to me. So when I cast that, that's going to drop some whirlwinds as well. They will hunt down and perhaps tag the enemies. No, I don't think they tag. I think they only seem to tag enemies that are nearby. So my damage deals down. Where has she fallen? She's here. We're better off just getting... Try and pick her up because I'm on full health here, so that's okay. And now we can just wail on this guy. He's down. And run away again. Cool. Wait, is this the boss? Was that the boss? I thought the big guy was the boss. I guess those enemies all had like a collective health pool, which is just a little bit odd. And for defeating that, I hesitate to call that a boss, I think that was a mini-boss. We do get some skill points, which we can put into our tech trees. So everybody's kind of got a passive one at the top, which is based on kind of their fighting style. So Cicero, being adept at all things, is a maestro. So he just kind of gets generally better at all things as you put points in here. He gains focus, health, mass charge regeneration, attack and movement speed boosts, and reduce skill cooldowns and less damage. And if I were to keep going higher, it gains, whenever he changes stance, he gains a temporary damage boost. Well, I don't find myself changing stances too much, so I kind of probably wouldn't necessarily want to do that. We have extra upgrades for our basic one, so I get better range on that, which is kind of cool. You sometimes get a choice of two options, some of them you do not, so it varies on the character. It's all presented in this musical format, because music is obviously a core central theme of things. It is the songs and shadows, is it not? So songs are a fairly core central motif running around throughout things, and of course, obviously, the focus is on the beautiful, beautiful music that is in throughout this. We can spend points and buy new abilities, but you can only equip 4 abilities, so I almost kind of feel like it's a waste of skill points to buy anything else. So I feel like you're sort of encouraged very, very early on to pick some stuff and stick with it, and not really chop and change. I mean, if I bought a new ability, I could drag it onto the bar and I would have a different ability, but then I wouldn't have invested the skill points, and my upgraded ability would be kind of wasted, and unless this is a feature that's introduced much later on into the game, thus far I've not actually found a way to reset my skill points. The thought occurs that maybe these are tied to, maybe that sort of thing could be tied to having different masks. Each different mask might have their own different ability progression, but that would be pure speculation on my part. And I don't know if I have no idea about resetting skill points at this stage. All I can say is it would be nice to have the freedom to experiment and change things and just be like, what if I were to use Tempest instead? What if I wanted an AoE around me? And obviously it's clearly intended as kind of more of a tanky ability. It raises threat for all enemies around me, so it brings focus onto me and away from the enemies, my allies. So it's kind of intended as a tank ability, which is why I did not pick it. Windswarm is conjure a swarm of squirrels to attack enemies. I'm kind of intrigued to play with that, but I can't. I can't do anything with that. Or I can, but I feel like my character progression would be lesser for choosing to do so. So while there's some interesting stuff in here, maybe later on you get the freedom to play with it, but early game so far I'm feeling a little bit limited by this, unfortunately. At least the upgrades are nice. They're not like passive, just here, do more damage. A couple of them kind of are. I mean, reduce skill cooldown, that's a fairly standard. Numbers are slightly different on this ability, but as you see with the Vaporize, you're adding damage to an ability, an extra damage to an ability that wouldn't normally have it. We can add Taunt to an ability that wouldn't normally have it. We can destroy incoming projectiles. So a lot of these upgrades are, fairly interesting upgrades to the ability. Not everything is, but there's usually quite a lot of interesting things. So you can inflict vulnerability so you'll do more damage. Or you can add a damage over time ability to your squirrels, which is chittering death, which is quite amusing. I am really regretting not picking squirrels as my ability, actually. I went for a very tactical kind of maneuverable kind of character. I've got 2 that allow me to move around the battlefield really quickly. And now I'm sat here thinking, damn it, I should have had squirrels. Why did I not pick death by squirrels? I am the fool here. I truly am. So admittedly, I'm at a point in the game where I can't upgrade any of my characters, because all the upgrades that I buy are now kind of... It costs 2 points to fill the first one, 1 point to fill the second tier, and then 2 points, and then presumably 3 points for the top tier. So all my characters kind of have 1 skill point at this point for that one fight I just won, and all the upgrades that I need to make are 2 points, so I can't do that right now. I don't think there's any kind of like open worldy kind of gain more skill point things. Everything just seems to be it's all very scripted. All the battles are, as you've seen, it's just like, here, there is a fight here, fight it, and at certain points in the story, you'll receive skill points for finishing this fight. So this inn is basically kind of a hub between missions, as it would appear. Eventually we kind of get there. It takes a few hours for the story to kind of wind up here, but it kind of returned here a couple times. And as you see, we got the purple things to kind of talk to people, learn a bit more about the world. It would also appear that this is kind of a character select thing, so again they're going to shoehorn in reasons to sort of not necessarily go with everybody. So we can go to talk to characters to bring them into our party here. So we can pick we can pick from these purple circles, presumably to choose which 3 people we want in our party, because 3 people must be in the party at all times to fight. So that's that. We can also do the upgrades here. If I were to head outside, I can probably do the upgrading system, which I mentioned. We can kind of have a look at the engravings. I presume you can also get the dyes at the purple circles, but I also haven't seen any of those that are part of this engraving things. You can also enter the training grounds at the courtyard. Okay. Oh, excellent. So that's actually where we can reset skills. Oh, well, that kind of allays one of the big concerns I had about all this was, yeah, how do we do that? So I guess there is a system. That is actually kind of good to know. So we can select our party? That's interesting. I'm not sure how that works. So that's something to delve deeper into. Certainly over here is where I guess we'll actually get to make masks. No, we're not. We're just going to do engravings. I thought the yellow meant we're going to unlock the masks. No. But yeah, we can see you can put an engraving on each of them's weapons. So we now have 5 in our party. Spoiler alert, I guess you probably join the dots and saw that one coming. This guy's joined our team. And each of them can have an upgrade. I mean, I only have one particular ink, one particular engraving that we can add to everybody at this point in time. So with each attack that each character does, it has a 20% chance to add bonus damage and restore some mask charge. So we'll do that. There are a whole bunch more different engravings we can unlock. There are a whole bunch of different inks that we can paint our weapons with, and they will all have different combinations of effects and different proc chances, and yeah, you can mix and match them up in different ways. But this sort of, it doesn't feel like I'm early into the game, but I guess this early into the game, yeah, there's only the one option right off the bat, to be fair. So that's that. This is a really good game. I'm enjoying this immensely. I mean, it's clearly not without its flaws. The combat does have some issues, and if you're not really, really into digging deep into the narrative, I'm not necessarily sure this is going to be for you. I mean, I'm finding it very heavy going, and I'm the sort of person who loves narrative stuff anyway. I'm just really trying to keep up with it. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of characters, a lot of stuff, and perhaps it's just me, but the name's very, very overwhelming. It's kind of got this whole, as you may have already figured, this kind of Venetian vibe to it all, the Venetian culture, and names above all else. It's all got this Italian, maybe Latin-y kind of feeling. I don't know enough about Italian or Latin to be able to point a finger and say which of the two specifically it is, but it kind of feels like a little a column A, a little a column B. I'm not sure. Hard to say on that one. Either way, the names are sort of not sticking with me very well, and when a character pops up and they're like, oh, it is you, Amadea Invidious, a little bit of me has to go, wait, which one's Amadea again? She's in my party, but who, Lord knows. I've got Tiziana and Amadea, and my mind has not yet kind of fully resolved them into which one is which. Likewise, a lot of if we were to dig into, I think, some of the culture, I think we see, we've got, like, the different ranks of the people. We've got the Valencio and the Varone and the Vocifers, and there's a lot of names and ranks and things that kind of, I mean, it's a good job that this kind of, the in-game Wikipedia, as it were, is here for you to refer to, but a lot of times when they're like, oh, Valencio, it is good to see you, I'm like, who's Valencia? Who was the Valencia? What does he do? What was his rank? We're like, oh, okay, he's the leader of the Portieri. And the Portieri are basically the kind of the military law enforcement kind of people around here, the guards of the city. And the Valencio leads the group. But I'm like, wait, was the Valencio in charge of the city? No, that's the Varone. The Varone is the person who's in charge of the city. But, yeah, and I sometimes find that a little hard to wrap my head around at times. But that may just be me. There's a lot to take in, and if you're into that, and are willing to do a bit of reading to really dig into it, there's a lot there. If you're really not quite so invested in the story, well, there is a lot of story. There's an astonishing amount of story, and the gameplay alone, probably, I'm not sure, is enough to carry the game. The gameplay is a little lackluster just in and of itself, and I think the story is what carries the whole thing along. So if you want to get invested in this world, then there's a lot to love. And certainly I would advise reading all these. I've read all of this. It's great. I've enjoyed reading all of this. If you're the sort of person who's not into reading and the only story you're going to get is through the actual character interactions and cutscenes and whatnot, it's probably going to be a lesser experience, I think. I don't think it necessarily would immediately become a bad experience, but I think there's a moment you sort of disengage from the story and are kind of really in it just for the gameplay. I don't think the gameplay necessarily carries it by itself. So that's where we're at. At the same time, I love this art style, I love the music. This is just a great world to be in as well. It is a beautiful, beautiful game. I can quite happily recommend this game. I will put this on my Steam curator list for the 2 people in existence that still are interested in those things. And as I say, this game is out now. It is available on Steam. It's available for £18.99 or your regional equivalent. If you like a good story, this is a very good story. You should check this out. This is Masquerada, Songs and Shadows. Thank you very much for joining me. I've been Meroka. I will see you next time.